I'm going to be glad in it. It is another crazy month for the happenings of the Donald Trump and all of the things that he does to make us either laugh or cry, jump up and bump our heads and say, what country am I living in? Where am I, and how can I help this ship? Can we land the boat, the plane it is, and can we dock the ship and let me off of this tour that I'm on? It ain't no more 3-hour tour. It is a tour that seems like it's going to go on for possibly 4 years, and if we're not careful, it could go on for 8 of them suckers. And so, you know, let's see if we could talk about the black vote, though. Because it is something that happened last night that is so encouraging for those of you who are I'm gonna take these off because it's kind of loud. For those of you who are been paying attention to the election in Alabama, it has been a lesson for all of us to understand that the status quo do not have to be the ones who always win. Did I see your song, Sanjay? No, you got to inbox it to me or send it, tag me if you can. Evangelist Victoria, blessings to you. Sherry Tutson, blessings to you. Hold down my fort tomorrow, you and Ella Jones, tomorrow Thursday Bible study. Hold it down, I ain't gonna be here. Okay, let's talk. Last night I did a show on the effect of Doug Jones and Roy Moore. I talked about the effect of how in Alabama, I've visited Alabama quite a few times. I have good, close friends there. I hung around a town called Demopolis, down there in the southern part, right below, about an hour, maybe 45 minutes out of Tuscaloosa, there in Alabama, where the Mercedes-Benz plant is. And I hung out at the beautiful University, Carver and Booker T. Washington, down in Montgomery. I hung out in Birmingham, Alabama quite a bit, and I know a lot about the red dirt of Alabama. I know about their politics, I know about their racism and their bigotry. I know. It's tough for the people down there and by the friends whom I've spoken with, and I've also faced some things down there that I just won't say, but and then we understood that Jeff Sessions was the senator of Alabama, and for the reason why we're having a lot of these special elections is because when a new man sits in that helm, in that office, the White House, the Oval Office, what happens is he's got to fill all of the empty chairs in the United States government. And Donald Trump did what every president supposed to do, all the way back to George Washington. Of course, there are new seats that have been offered to us since George Washington because we hadn't had a need for some of these other seats to be filled. But now we have a big government, and it is the very thing that the Republican Party speak against. Big government. Well, we got big government, and these Republicans are making it bigger by whatever. Anyway, so Donald Trump, what he did was he began to hire people to fill in these cabinet seats. And what he had to do is he had to pull people who were already established. You see, he ran on the whole campaign of being an outsider and draining the swamp and bringing in his billionaire buddies in business. But he realized, though, I'm sure through counsel, that he had to bring in those who were established, because you can't bring in all outsiders who don't know nothing about the business of America. Well, Donald Trump is a man who didn't know about the business of America, yet America hired him to be the CEO of the corporation, and it is amazing how you can vet a person for a job, a multi-trillion-dollar industry like America. You can, well, that's our debt, but you know what I mean? And then you can vet this man and then still hire him as the CEO of the corporation, knowing that he does not qualify for the job. Only America as a whole can do something like that and not take the advice from your smaller businesses that do it right by checking the resumes, the qualifications of the person you're trying to hire in a high seat. So what he did was he pulled people from the Congress, he pulled people from Senate, the people who were already sitting, and that's why we had to have a special election in Alabama. Okay, I'm catching you guys up. Now, once he pulled Jeff Sessions out of that seat had to be filled by someone, and so they had an election, a pre-election, and they decided to go with Roy Moore. Okay, Donald Trump didn't want Moore; he wanted the other guy, but Roy Moore was the candidate that won for that pre-election, the primary. And then, then women began to come forth against Roy Moore about his sexual misconduct, okay? And in walked another candidate by the name of Doug Jones. Doug Jones has been known to, matter of fact, I think I'm gonna go here because I have Doug Jones's resume here to kind of help y'all out, because many people who are not in Atlanta, and I mean in Alabama, didn't know who Doug Jones was. He's not an old man. He's born in =54. He's an American attorney and, of course, a politician. And he was a former federal prosecutor, and he is, of course, now the United States Senator-elect for Alabama. And he served as an attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. It's up top, y'all, from '97 to 2001. And he's famous, which is the reason why he is in office now as senator, which is the reason why he won last night, is because African Americans remembered what he did. He prosecuted the remaining 2 Ku Klux Klan perpetrators of the 16th Street Baptist church bombing. Those of you who are young, ask your parents about that, which killed 4 American girls. There was a movie that was made on it. For those of you who don't know anything about that history, if you're black, you should know about it. And he persecuted prosecuted them, and also secured an indictment against the Atlanta Olympic Park bomber. Donald Trump said that this man is weak on crime, but when you look at Roy Moore and his track record, it will not ever line up with what Doug Jones did for the people of Alabama. And Jones was a Democratic nominee in this race to fill the seat from Sessions that I mentioned, well, he's in there now. Okay, now let's see, Jones prosecuted Thomas Edwin Blanton Jr., that's his name, and Bobby Frank Cherry, 2 members of the Ku Klux Klan, for their roles in the 1963 bombing. And the case was reopened the year before Jones was appointed, but did not pick up traction until his appointment. Okay, it's almost like this was God ordained. A federal grand jury called in 1998, which piqued the attention of his ex-wife, okay, and led her to call the FBI to report her testimony, and the case goes on, and Doug Jones was responsible, and African Americans came out by the droves last night, and they voted. They voted. Seemed like he brought his suspect KGB agents. Yep, Shantae. I pray the black voters come out November 2018, and then again 2020. Our votes are as loud as old lady wearing white diamonds. Melissa Green says, great analogy. The black voters have gained a lot of momentum and confidence. See, when you come together for something, I'm telling you, African American people, it's something amazing when we come together, what we can do. Shantae says they remember that he needed to update his civil rights work, and he needs to continue the work according to the pundits. Yep, I know what they're saying, and they're already talking about some recount. Of course, I get it. But when we come together like this, we shouldn't have to come together like this because of a sex offender. We shouldn't have to come together like this because we're coming together to oppose the other person. Okay, the reason why Donald Trump is in office right now is because many African Americans sat at home, decided not to vote at all because they didn't like Hillary nor did they like Trump. So instead of them voting at all, they didn't vote at all. Okay, and I'm gonna show you the stats here, 2016 black population. Okay, now as far as the population in the country, here are the stats to kind of help you see who we are. All right, now I did that show on how many women opposed to how many men are there in the world, and it's almost half and half. It's like 49% here, 50% here, 47% here. 40, okay, it's kind of level. So for those of you who have been giving us this narrative that there's more women than men on the earth, that is not true. There are more women that are available as far as coming together and maybe in courtship than there are, because many of the men are, well, they're captivated in other little things that I don't want to talk about. That's another show. But as far as those babies that are born in the world, there's just almost as many men born as there are women. It's just that many of the men are not available because of incarceration and because of self-infliction of drugs and alcohol, and or they're already married, or all kind of stuff, or they turned over a lifestyle that may not be conducive, all right, to a woman being able to marry and have children with him. All right, you know what lifestyle that is. In 2016, the U.S. Census Bureau estimated that it's 46,778,674 okay, African Americans in the United States. That's 46 million. There's about 300, I think, and 50 million people who live in the United States. 46, almost 47 million African Americans. I mean, that's 14.5% of the total American population of about, well, they're saying 321.1 million. Okay, 323, I'm sorry, 0.1 million is black. Okay, that's 14%. This includes those who identify as black only and as black in combination with other races. So the black only category by itself totaled 43 million African Americans, or 13.3% of the total population. You understand that? That may seem small when you put it up against 300 million, all but the power that we just saw last night. You're right, we should come together each and every time there's an election. If blacks had come together in the last election, Trump wouldn't have become president, let alone with the help of Russia, Michael Eason. That's right. We have been holding at 42 mil for a while. Yes, we have. We haven't moved past 12 to 14%. Okay. Now that was here's some stats here. 5 years ago, blacks outvoted whites in the 2012 election. The first time on record. Hear me. What happened in 2012? Can somebody tell me what happened in 2012? Why blacks outvoted whites in 2012? Lady Rochelle says, we have power. Maybe this victory will give blacks a glimpse of how powerful we can be when we truly come together. Amen, Lady Rochelle. What happened in 2012? Okay, that broke a record in a sense. Well, here in Washington, this is a CNN report, says a new Census Bureau report shows a higher percentage of African Americans than whites voted in a presidential election for the first time in history last year, so 2012, during the matchup between President Barack Obama and the GOP nominee Mitt Romney. Okay, and they came out like this because of the opposition more so. Well, I tell you something, the report released Wednesday found that more than 66% of eligible blacks voted in the presidential contest. Do y'all understand those numbers? We haven't seen those numbers almost since until last night. Only 64.1% of whites turned out to vote. They didn't like Mitt Romney either, apparently, but Barack Obama got in there not just because of the black vote, but many whites voted for Barack Obama in 2008. This marks the first time since 1968 that blacks turned out a higher rate than whites. We know in '68, of course, after the assassination of Kennedy, JFK, his vice president took on the helm there. That was LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson. In addition to black turning out at a higher rate, the number of Asian and Hispanic voters grew from 2008 to 2012. Hispanics added 1.4 million people, and Asians added over 500,000. And between 1996 and 2012, blacks, Asians, Hispanics, all saw their percentage of voting population increase. Huge undertaking for them. Okay, for YouTube? Yes. YouTube, I appreciate you watching. Thank you. Tune in tomorrow, again, to my show, Sir Walter Jones, at 5 o'clock. Peace and love. Over the last 5 presidential elections, the